Hey guys, welcome back to Layout. So today I've got another HO how-to video for you. I want to install these TCS WOW sound decoders into my Bowser Baldwin DS-4-4-1000. Now, I ordered these from Yankee Dabbler. I can't really say I'm too pleased though. I ordered two, and I've already put one in this guy here. And it was actually a used decoder. It already had an address, and a bunch of the CVs are changed. So what I'm gonna do is likely factory reset it, but before I do that, I want to plug in this other one, which I've already tested, and set it up with my other locomotive and compare some of the CVs. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and get started. I went with this kit because I wanted to try TCS instead of the lock sound decoders. This comes with a 21-pin decoder, which is going to fit right on the Bowser motherboard, a KA4 Keep Alive, and a speaker and enclosure kit. So you can see it's got the KA4, there's the 21-pin decoder, and the speaker and enclosure kit. I like that because it's made for this locomotive from this manufacturer, so it's really simple, but there is still some soldering like with the Keep Alive and the speakers. But let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so we're on the desk and I've taken the shell off. To do that, you just have to remove the two couplers and then gently lift up enough just so you can unplug the lights. So you can see there's a small plug there, and that just connects into the motherboard for the lighting effects. So you don't want to just yank it. You want to kind of gently pry it up. I have these tweezers here, and I just get under it and pull up. And then once that's off, you have the board. Now, this being a Bowser, it's got the 21-pin and the 8-pin. I think the older ones only had the 8. But what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna unplug everything here. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that with one hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video, unplug it, and then get back here. Okay, don't worry too much about remembering where everything goes, because they are actually labeled quite nicely. The track power are these two. You have your motor and then your speaker. I'm gonna start using a screwdriver because my big fat finger. So next we have to take out the DC jumper plug from the 8-pin. But actually what we're gonna do, because we're gonna need to solder some things for the Keep Alive, we're going to take the entire board off. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew. There's a screw on this corner, and hiding behind this plug there's a screw on that corner. So I'm just going to go ahead and take those off now. Okay, so now that the board is out of the locomotive, we can go ahead and remove the 8-pin DC jumper here, which I'll go ahead and do now. There we are. Just a quick note, while you're pulling up, just remember to pull straight up and not kind of teeter-totter it back and forth, or else you may end up bending some of the pins. That goes for actually all of these plugs. I would recommend trying to pull them straight up as best as possible before you do any damage. Usually the enclosed plugs, like the lighting board or the small motors, the small motor plugs or the track pickups are pretty hard to damage, but things like the 21-pin and the 8-pin, you can really do some damage, and bend the pins, or, you know, worst case scenario, you can actually break one off. So just be mindful of that, and just try to pull straight up and push straight down with gentle but firm pressure to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Alright, so now for the hard part of this install. Because the Keep Alive doesn't have a plug, we need to solder it directly on the board, which, judging from its size, may be a little scary to some people. What we want to do is, if we get a closer look and try to focus my camera, we want to take pin number 2 from the 8-pin and connect that to the blue wire. And we want to take the black wire, the black and white wire, and we want to go, I think it's resistor number 5 it's called. It's these 3 small contacts here. We want the bottom one. So that's pretty small, but the wiring is pretty small, so it shouldn't be a big deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post the instructions just in case you want a closer view and a more kind of detailed instruction, picture to picture. You can reference that, but the decoder's flipped over right now, so this is the bottom, and we're going to go to that second pin down on the left, and we're going to go to with the blue wire, and for the black wire we're going to go to the bottom of these 3. And I haven't plugged in the 21-pin decoder or anything. That's going to be last. We're going to solder this, then we're going to solder up the speaker, and that's really the hardest part of this whole thing. So let's go ahead and get those soldered up so I can show you how that looks. Alright guys, so we've got it soldered up. You just want to remember, like I said, bottom second from the top on the left, and the bottom part of the resistor there. So that's all wired to go. And just remember, you pre-tin your wires just by adding a little bit of solder to them, and then all you have to do is just touch the contact, warm it up, let the solder get soft, and stick your wire in, and make sure that you've got a nice good connection. You don't want a cold solder joint or anything like that. So now that that's on, we can move on to soldering the speaker. Okay, I got this soldered up. Luckily, the polarity or where the wire goes doesn't matter, as long as you make sure to not bridge this gap. There's a very small gap there. You just want to solder wire there, and you are good to go. And that's honestly the hardest part of this whole install. Well, before I say that, let's wait until we have to stuff all the wires back into the shell, but it's not too bad. That's definitely doable, and I'm very happy with that. So let's go ahead and get everything over to the desk so we can get everything back together. Okay, we have the board back on the chassis, and now what we want to do is, before we plug everything back in, we want to get this 21-pin decoder on. Now, a lot of the times you look at this and you say, oh, that's the plug, and you want to put it in that way, but actually in this case it's the opposite. The micro SD card points down, and to help align everything, the top right pin actually is blocked off. And if you look at the motherboard, if it will focus, let's just turn this around here. There we go. So if you look at the motherboard, if I put my hand here, that made it way worse. You can see that there's a pin missing, so that actually lines up with the blocked pin on the DCC decoder. And what we can do is we can line up, and I probably won't be able to do this with one hand. Yes, I can. So I've just felt it go in just a little bit. Okay, I haven't pressed down or anything, but we can see it's aligned. We'll get this wire out of the way, and I'm just gonna firmly but gently push down, and you can see now everything is seated. There we go. Okay, so now what we can do is we can go back and put these plugs back in where they belong, and then we can plug in the speaker. All right, everything's plugged back in except for the speaker, because before we plug in the speaker, we actually need to mount it. So this came with the mounting enclosure. You can see one end has just a flat notch, and the other one has kind of a higher notched notch, and that's the back, because the wires are going to go through it. So we're going to come over to here to the speaker, and we're going to place it on, and we have to kind of do this. So let me do that off camera and just kind of set it with the wires pointing backwards, and then we can get the front 2 screws in. There we go. So now everything's connected except for the lights, which we're going to leave off. At this point, you would stick it on your programming track, check the addressing, and you know, set the address you want, and maybe change any CVs, or test how it works, make sure the sound good, you know, do all the testing, and then once you're sure everything works, then you can go ahead and put the shell back on. Obviously, at this point, we want to make sure the trucks still move freely, nothing's getting snagged, nothing's getting caught. Maybe do a couple test laps. And then what I did is I just stuck some 2-sided tape to the Keep Alive, and I just kind of perched it up on that shelf, because in this case the cab comes down and it's blocked off, so it comes down here and you've got a little room there. That's pretty much it. You know, I do suggest wrapping up these wires and maybe tying them up or taping them. What I usually do is, in the past, I've done some shrink wrap in between them just to keep them kind of together. But usually I just kind of coil them as best I can, and just some tape, nothing too big. I don't like using zip ties just because then you have to get a knife in there to cut it. Just something that, you know, you can rip apart with your fingers but keeps everything nice and together, is what you're looking for. Obviously, when you put the shelf back, or the shell back on, you want to make sure that the sides are free, nothing's getting caught. Like the motor wires here need to go into the groove to make sure that they're not going to get snagged or caught, and these extra long wires don't come down with the shell. You know, that's pretty much it. The only reason I made this video is I didn't really see a ton of the Bowser tutorials, and even on their website they actually don't have the DS-4-4-1000. They have an RS-12, which is very similar, and it has the same board, but some steps are slightly different. Once again, I will put this in the description just so that you guys can see, if you're interested in pictures and step-by-step, you can do it this way. Alright guys, so that's a small tutorial on how I put in the TCS sound decoders in these Bowser Baldwins. I hope it was helpful and cleared any questions up. I just wanted to make one. I haven't made a HO how-to in quite a while, so I hope it was just like it used to be, if not better. If not, I want to continue improving my video quality and my how-tos and just all of my videos in general. So keep watching, and hopefully I will just keep getting better now that I'm back. I have went ahead and factory reset 7069, so now they're both at defaults, other than the addresses, and they run great. So thanks so much for watching, and until next time, enjoy your bacon.